Hello and welcome to Sectors Up Close. I'm David Pollard. Today we're looking at prospects for pharmaceuticals and the healthcare sector. And my guest is Aaron Anderson, Senior Vice President of Research at Fisher Investments. We'll always need healthcare, the argument goes, but do we need to invest in it now? Our guest today argues there are reasons to look at this sector from the point of view of US politics, the economy and valuation metrics and the ongoing excitement around GLP-1 obesity drugs like Eli Lilly's Zepbound. And recent news has indeed been upbeat. According to one estimate, 12 of 17 healthcare companies to report their earnings up to August the 10th beat profit estimates. Eli Lilly shares soared 14% on its quarterly report. But looking at the sector as a whole, the Spider Healthcare Select Sector Fund is up just under 10% year to date, underperforming the S&P 500, which is up around 12% year to date. Well, with me now is Aaron Anderson of Fisher Investments. Good to see you, Aaron. Many thanks for joining us today. Western populations are ageing and demand for healthcare is seen as pretty much inelastic. Those are two big picture reasons to invest possibly in healthcare. But why should we do it right now, do you think?
I would say in terms of what's going on in healthcare today that's exciting, I'd say it's one of the most exciting industries out there, just in terms of innovative new drug developments, clearly a pickup in mergers and acquisitions as bigger companies look to fill their pipelines with some of the technologies that are being developed by smaller companies. The regulatory environment has been very favorable. Certainly regulators all throughout the world are keen to get new novel drugs to market very quickly, which is a big benefit for healthcare companies. So fundamentally, what's going on there is quite exciting today.
Now, you say regulators are keen to get new drugs moving and so on, but regulation and scrutiny are two big features of this sector and can be barriers. Another possible problem at the moment is a lot of big companies are facing patent cliffs where their patents on various blockbuster drugs are going to expire. What's your assessment of some of those negatives there?
Patent cliffs or big drugs coming off patent can be a big issue for pharmaceutical companies. You know, that really isn't a huge problem. The biggest drugs aren't coming off patents for a few years now, but certainly some monster drugs from the likes of Merck and Eli Lilly and others, you know, they are going to need to be replaced over the next few years. And I think there's some good and bad to that. What that means on the bad side, of course, is that those companies in particular are going to face this wall of patent expirations. But it also means that they're scrambling to refill their pipelines. And so that's usually a good thing for drug innovation. It's also usually a good thing for mergers and acquisitions because larger companies like those that have built up big cash piles and want to rebuild their pipelines, well, often that means they're looking towards smaller biotechs or other type of drug development companies.
Are some of the names within pharmaceuticals simply just getting too big? I say that because if we look at the Spider Healthcare ETF, there at the top is Eli Lilly with a market cap of around $850 billion. At number 10, we've got Pfizer itself, pretty massive company, but with a mere $160 billion. Is Eli Lilly in danger of overbalancing this sector?
Well, I don't think so. I mean, I think that is really a reflection of just how big the tailwinds have been for companies, particularly involved in GLP-1s. I think what that's doing is bringing in a lot of competition. I mean, these are tremendous drugs with, you know, it just seems like the benefits of these drugs keep accruing and accruing and accruing, and they're finding no use cases for them. And the technological moats are really quite tremendous. That also has invited a lot of competition. More and more, you're seeing new companies trying to enter the space. And so I think for companies that are some of the early players, you mentioned Eli Lilly, other companies like Novo Nordisk out of Europe, you know, these companies have got a big advantage over other firms. I think investors acknowledge those advantages and are willing to assign some value to that, you know, very profitable space for years into the future.
But can Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, can they protect that first mover advantage?
They have such a proven track record of innovation that I think they can keep up with this, but it's certainly not a sure thing. I mean, there are going to be oral versions of these drugs coming out which are just easier to take, much more likely to have folks stick with them for a longer amount of time. Certainly, there are even just improvements that can happen with the drugs. And so can they keep this up? I think they can. But are they immune from competition? Absolutely not.
Now, as you mentioned at the outset, this is a complex, difficult to negotiate space for investors. Outside of the big names like Eli Lilly and so on, where do you see exciting opportunities? In some of the subsectors, for example?
One, I would say in particular, are medical devices. I mean, I think what you're still seeing in lots of parts of the economy, but certainly within healthcare today, is there still is a lagged effect of all the COVID lockdowns. A lot of those medical device type companies are some of the real beneficiaries of that. This isn't so relevant for the larger cap parts of the space, but I mentioned before that filling up pipelines is a big priority of the bigger drug companies. And so smaller biotechs get to be very exciting right now. Over the last few years, there's been a tremendous amount of capital poured into the space. And as you might start to get a little bit more favorable interest rate environment and funding for these companies improves, there's been a lot of very exciting technology out there. And with bigger drug companies looking to those smaller companies to fill their pipelines, I think a lot of those companies become very attractive in this type of environment.
OK, Aaron, we'll leave it there. Aaron Anderson of Fisher Investments, many thanks for sharing your insights with us today. And that is your roundup of the healthcare and pharmaceutical sector. I'm David Pollard, and this is Reuters.